Good afternoon or good lunch. I see some are actually eating in the car while we are having this, so great. I would say thank you for joining. We have a fantastic speaker today, and we have fantastic hosts and guests here today. So Gina is going to give us her learnings in the first session. We'll see if Marijn is here. Marijn, he's also going to join, but Marcello will tell a little bit more about that. But the next hour, what we'll do, just so that you have an overview, we'll first have an open session, mainly given by Gina. Then we'll have questions and answers. Then we'll break out in sessions where we can work together. And then we'll let you free for lunch and have a proper lunch. How's that? But maybe just first say, well, everyone, glad to see you. I see Chris is all the way here from Singapore. I see Steve from the UK. I see Randall from Switzerland. I see Arnaud from Belgium. I see Lars from Belgium. I see Pavel from Poland. So welcome from all the corners of the world, and looking forward to this. And Vincent, you are in the Virgin Islands, I guess, right? No, it's too far. He's on mute. All right.
No, sorry. I just wanted to say yes, indeed, and it's a bit noisy, so that's why I'm muting. But I'm fully focused on conversation, of course.
Marcello, maybe you can introduce Gina to the group and kick her off. How's that?
Okay, I do that lovely. Good to see everyone. So Gina, I had a fantastic encounter with her. She was going to come to the summit. She is someone who has worked at Unilever for a number of years, so she learned the corporate life and decided to go for an entrepreneurial career. And she and some colleagues started Soil Heroes, which is a fantastic organization that is supporting regenerative agricultural entrepreneurs. And I was very honored to speak at a session with some of the UK entrepreneurs she's working with. Very impressive. I love this combination of, knowing the big picture of from Unilever, from the corporate world, many of the food issues, and now being an entrepreneur in her venture. So she's totally kind of inspired me. So Gina, thanks for joining us. I know you are in Glasgow at COP26. So thank you for making the time to be with us, and we're looking forward to hear your story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcello. Two big words for sure, but very grateful for such a nice introduction. And good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you all might be. Can everyone hear me okay? It's always the best. Super. Then I will continue. It's really a great pleasure to meet you all, and I'm extremely honored to have the opportunity to share with you a little bit about what we're doing at Soil Heroes, and my own perspective on this as well. In general, I don't share slides, but I think for the sake of they're mostly pictures. The screen sharing, if that's possible to enable, that would be super.
Yes, you can go.
Thank you very much. And what I'll do is I'll just bring up. Can you all still see me and the slides? It works fine, super. So I'm Gina Pattisson. I'm the chief executive of an organization called Soil Heroes. And I've been asked to share with you how we are accelerating the regeneration of our food systems, and indeed accelerating the regeneration of ourselves, of our well-being. I'm just going to share with you, not going to bore you with my CV, and Marcello's already been very beautifully sharing what I've done. But if you see this slide, and I shared this recently with a group of sustainable business students at Alanus University in Germany, and I asked them, who do you think I am? And they all went, yeah, do-gooder, okay. So you can see, spent a long time in the non-profit world. That said, as Marcello shared, and for me this is very important when we think about regenerating our food systems, I began life in the FMCG FTSE 100 world, which is very profit driven. So you could argue that I am now with Soil Heroes working really at the sweet spot of purpose and profit, and actually the perfect combination of my experience to date. Why do I say that that is important? Well, first, let me just share, let's just take a step back. This is another slide I shared with some of those students. And I said, we're going to grow you a plate of food. I'm going to grow you some beautiful potatoes, some carrots, some, I don't know, some brown beans. You tell me. And you can choose either the left side of the screen or the right side of the screen. Which would you like me to apply to the soil to grow your dinner tonight? And of course, you can imagine which one they all chose. If there's anybody in the room who wants to choose the other side, shout. I think you're probably all aligned. I'm making a big assumption there, but the more discerning of you might say, it depends. Or looks deceiving. What's in it? Great question. Well, if we look at the contents of what's in those products that I could apply to the soil to grow our food, we can either add chemicals, which actually were used for bomb making in the war until we discovered that we could apply them to fields to boost yields, or we can go and gather leaves from the local forest, which sounds better to you. So I think the point here is that instinctively already we know what's right. And my big mission is that we start with what's right. And I believe that if we begin with purpose, profit will come. And Paul Polman is very much the prolific of this at the moment. And the way I frame his mantra of a profit through purpose is to set out your purpose and through delivering it, achieve your profit. How is that relevant to our food systems? Well, in the end, it can seem a nice to have, seems really good to farm in a nice way and bring nature in. It could be, so there you could read philanthropy, society, doing social good. Or you might say, actually, there's going to be legislation. It's just a must have. It's a requirement. But much more importantly, it just makes good business sense. It's good for the farmer. It's good for the company, and it's good for us. So with that background and that backdrop, we began Soil Heroes. And I will share a little bit about the Soil Heroes ecosystem, as I call it. We have two entities, a foundation and a company. And we see the way that in order for us to really change our food systems, we need to start with the farmer. And I'm going to assume, I can't see everyone in the room, so perhaps Marcello, you can help me here, but I'm going to assume that a basic level of, given that this is the Regenerative Alliance, I'm not going to talk to you about the principles of regenerative agriculture, because I think everybody here knows. Good, I've got thumbs up from Marcello. So if we are all signed up and we're all together in this room, this Zoom room, agreeing that we need the world to farm regeneratively, how can we make that happen as fast as possible, as well as possible at scale? And that's our starting point. First, we need the farmers to be able to make that transition. So before explaining the foundation and the company's work, of course, it makes good sense to understand why. Why is nature so important in our food production? And of course, at this moment, I'm sitting here in Glasgow at the COP. Everybody's talking about carbon, who's not? We all know that when you have green cover, you're going to draw down greenhouse gases. And the more we can do that, the better. That also said, carbon is really essential. It's like a powerhouse for the soil. So CO2, it's not just getting it out of the atmosphere. It is about putting it into the soil because it makes the soil cycle go round. We'll come to that later. It's also when we start to farm regeneratively, we change the structure of the soil, which means we have more balance of natural water holding capacity. We increase the levels of biodiversity, and very importantly, we build the level of nutrients. So if a farmer is doing all of that for us, why wouldn't we make that visible and reward the farmer properly and fairly for that? So we have found a way to enable farmers to make the transition and also to monitor and measure the improvement made in what, I don't like the word ecosystem services. I'm waiting for someone to please natural capital, however we want to call it, the resources that nature gives us on which we survive and depend. That if we can capture these in a way that makes sense for companies and for humanity, and reconnect them to the farmer, we can reward the farmer fairly, bring them new income models, and the whole system goes up rather than down. So, first instance, seeing it through a farmer's lens. Okay, well, how do I know it really works? So we set up a foundation and we have developed a proof of practice. So we've not started with carbon. Very, very important, we don't just talk about carbon because soil is complex and there are many aspects to consider in what makes healthy soil, which makes healthy food. So we are doing research on how to prove that regenerative practices changes the water holding capacity of soil. For a farmer, that's much more concerning every day when they wake up, rather than how much CO2 will I sequester for society today. They're probably asking, is my crop going to survive? Do I need to irrigate? Yes or no? So water is more relevant. Once a farmer has the proof that it improves and you can irrigate less and you have more resilient crops, then they're going to be more convinced. That's all well and good. But then how do I make the transition? So the next part of what we do at the foundation is to provide the knowledge and the tools. And we've written a guidebook on the 20 principles of regenerative farming. I can put the link in the chat. I've gathered the links together. I'll do it at the end. And that's now, we see that's being shared worldwide. There is no global agreement yet on regenerative practices, but broadly we all know, and we've not had anyone challenge back yet what's in that guidebook. So some generic information for farmers on how to go about it. And then another very important part is connection, making sure that farmers don't feel alone, that they're encouraged to go further, that they're recognized that they're part of a community. So that's all with the foundation. Lovely. But does it make money? Does it put bread on the table of the farmer? Before I come to that, this is an important link, because the Soil Heroes company we have set up to provide the income models, to make sure there is a business model there that it's worth doing it. It's not just a good thing to do, it's the right thing to do, also financially. So we've set up the company as a purpose company, and we have a golden share that is held by the foundation, of which the supervisory board is in charge. And we're very proud of our supervisory board members. We have Riella of Triodos, Riella Hollander, sorry, of Triodos. She's now heading up the Regenerative Money Center. Ryan Gellert, who's the CEO of Patagonia, and Henry van Egen, who is the president of Synergos based in the States. And they guide our overall mission to make sure, even if Soil Heroes made loads of money, we can't go and just spend it on what we want or make lots of money ourselves. It's for our mission. I'm not sure, Marcello, how we are for time, how long I have. Okay, so I have 3 minutes. Okay, then I'm going to whiz through. I'll send this link later, but it's a beautiful story of Jill Clapperton, who is working with Dan Barber, who is author of The Third Plate, working out of Stonebarn Center in the US. And it's all about the impact of how we grow our food and how totally interconnected it is with the gut. And it's very well worth listening to. In the run up to COP, we've actually put a number of stories on, it's called the Google Arts and Culture platform. And there are all different farmers and stakeholders telling their story. And I'll share the link at the end. Let me come to Soil Heroes company, given the time. So in short, what we're doing is an end-to-end relationship between a company and a farmer. Company wants to be able to, for whatever reason, to balance their footprint, to ensure they have future supply, so resilient supply chains. It might be just in their DNA to make sure they are producing premium products. So they are looking for the best. And if we can make those farmers who are farming with nature visible and measure it, and then put a value on it, they can transact in a way that's good for farmer, good for company, and regenerates our supply chain. I'm going to whiz through. This is our platform where companies can see who the farmers are. You can see exactly which, oh, sorry, going up the wrong way. You can see information about the farm, who the farmer is, what their vision is, what they grow, where they're based. And you can also see all their practices. So exactly what are they doing and how much CO2, for example, are they sequestering? Because I'm going to pick a name of the Christoph, for example. You tell me that in your the hectares behind you, you're going to plant cover crops, and we can then take an average, a world average. That means you're going to sequester 4 tons of carbon. Great, but are you really? Because what are you going to grow before you plant those cover crops? The cash crop's going to make a difference to the soil. And how long are you going to grow those cover crops for? And with which seed mix? And when you've grown them, what are you going to do at the end? Are you going to mulch it? Are you going to leave it in the ground? So all those things add nuance to the level of drawdown that's happening in the soil. So we will enable the farmer through our platform to, in the first instance, to plan that. And then we go back and we review it, and we adjust the calculation, but still based on practices, but we adjust the calculation on how much has actually been drawn down. So we're talking here real impact. We're talking real change in the soil. Really important if we want to change the food that we put into our bodies. I'm going to whiz through this, but this is a very important point here. Alongside that, when there is a transaction, a company pays a farmer, great. We are making sure that farmers also do real-time soil analysis. Now, we need 5 years to pass to be able to see the first real chemical changes in the soil. So that's why our platform is based on the practices, and then the review of the practice and affirmation that things have happened. We have lots of satellite checking, lots of incontrovertible data to check that that's happened. And at the same time, having to do a soil health analysis, the farmer gets out the tractor, digs a hole, understands the full picture of their soil. And it might be that carbon is not the biggest problem. There might be other issues in the soil as well. And so it starts to change the psychology and the thinking and the approach and the understanding of your whole farm planning. And that can then show you what's the value of my asset at the moment. And in 5 years' time, how has that changed? And I'll leave it with you to consider what kind of financial products could then come from that in terms of the standing of the farmer, the financial, I say fluency or ability or capacity of the farmer, when they can prove that their soil is better and more resilient than the conventional farmer down the road. So it improves their financial position. So I'm going to just whiz through these because you can see the quotes later. But one other thing I would love to share that we are doing, which, to be fair, was not our specific intention. Yes, we want to change the way companies think and interact with farmers, but we didn't realize it would go this far. A company approached us, beautiful company called Toastdale. They make beer out of recycled bread, and they approached us for offsetting. They said, we have to balance our footprint from last year. Can we buy your carbon credits? I said, you can, but they're very expensive because we reward the farmer for what they do on their soils, which is not just sequester carbon. Because if you are planting cover crops, you're putting flower lanes, you're creating biodiversity, you're doing so much more than just sequestering carbon. So we want to reward the farmer fairly. Right. So actually offsetting. So the chief operating officer went off and was already very busy in the offset market, trying to work out which offset to do. Came back and said, I just love it. I don't want to do offsets anymore. We are going to change our budget because it wasn't enough for our expensive carbon credits. They said, we're going to create a new budget for investing in soil. Absolutely fantastic. For them, it's really important. I mean, we're going to sit there, delicious beer. Is it? How was it grown? So for them, it's a really vital, immediate connection. And so they're very excited because then also, and this is Louisa who made that decision, and she said, we've decided not to compensate, but instead to invest in regenerative agriculture. So we're actually, that's internal change within companies as well. So it's not just about farmers transitioning. We all need to make that transition. There's big statements being made, huge figures being bandied around. And of course, the big question then is how? So with Soil Heroes, we are looking at what we all need, which is a sense of the tangible, making it real, transparent and trustworthy, telling the story. And there's a lovely link here, which I can share later, of one company sharing how they discovered the importance of soil for their food product, and local, making those local connections. Back to the point about business case, then, it becomes a total no-brainer, because for the business, it's reducing the risk in the supply chain, it's giving you license to operate in the future, it's proving the environmental positive impact that you are investing in. It creates local onshore investments, whichever country you're in. It's driving up the level of nutrients in the products. And in the end, that is just the best proposition to bring to your consumers. And equally for the farmer, it's about bringing those additional income streams. They reduce inputs because of the transitioning. You will have better access to finance, as I've said, and access to new markets. You increase the value of your asset. It's a complete no-brainer. So that's us. That's who we are. And I just want to end with, as I said, start with the right thing. And I love this quote. We must use time wisely and forever realize time is always now to do right. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Gina, thank you very, very much. I would like to invite people to put any questions on the chat so that we can, pick, one or two questions for you, Gina. And in the meantime, I see that Sonia Ziveri and Paolo Goi have joined us from Davines. So Davide, who attended our summit, has asked them to share the story of the Rodale Institute in Italy with organic farming. So Sonia and Paolo, may I give you, say, 5-6 minutes to say the highlights of what you're doing with Rodale in Italy. Thank you.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So yes, Davide. Sorry, Davide cannot be here, and he asked me to do a short presentation of the project. Just to, I want to share that going on with the sustainability journey we do in Davines, we discover, as Gina said, that the soil is too important and agriculture is too important. So we decide to work on the soil, and because we are a B Corp, we realize that we cannot just think about Davines, but about the world. And for this reason, we decided to create a research center together with Rodale. Maybe all of you know Rodale. Rodale is a non-profit organization in US that is sort of the father of regenerative agriculture, and we decided with them to create a research center here in Parma, close to the Davines village. We have 10 hectares that we want to dedicate to the regenerative agriculture studies. So we have different targets with this project. For sure, we want to create some specific supply chain for our products. We have an ambitious target of 100 supply chain in the next 10 years. And but also the main target is the education for the farmer that are not really related with our world, with the beauty industry, but with the food industry. But we realize that we need to create really an impact on this changing. And related with this research center, we fix some target in terms of number of supply chain we want to set. Already said 100 in next 10 years. We are putting in place a methodology to calculate the amount of carbon we can sequestrate during the cultivation of our ingredient, how the biodiversity will change with these practices. So as Gina said, it's a long journey. We really the first result in 5 years, but we are working more or less in the same way that Gina explained it. And yes, the key topic of this project will be that the center will be a center that that the community can use. We already received some requests from other companies that want what the center start working in specific cultivation for their own business. And yeah, we are open. We already set the one of the three part of this research center, and we have some space to receive the request from other interesting people, and we are working with some association in Italy but in Europe to get financing, some money to spread for free this and to teach the farmer to move from the intensive agriculture to regenerative agriculture. This is the main topic of the project. If a few minutes, I just a video we used to share this project with our community in a few weeks ago, and I think that it will be a clear picture of the project. We have few words in Italian, sorry, because yes, we decided to have a multi-language video, but in the Italian part of the video, just a presentation of the project that I already did to you. So if I can share, I will.
Thank you, Paolo.
Can you see? Yes.
Yes.
I have a video, but it doesn't work. So I don't know why.
May I suggest, Paolo, would you send us the
yes,
link?
The link, so maybe, yes.
People can see it on their videos on their own time. So
yes.
Fantastic. I would like to pass it on to my friends and colleagues, but just to say, maybe Gina, for you, it's just wonderful. I can see immediately also in the chat that people are sending you messages. And obviously there's a big connection also between what Davines is doing, what you're doing. I am, by the way, I am now here in Puglia visiting an amazing B Corp called Natural is Better, which is actually implemented in regenerative agriculture in the last 32 years. They sell all over the world. Major companies buy their products. Some of them for cosmetic industry, some are for the food industry, and it's all regenerative agriculture. So Gina says this is can be a very good business model.
I don't know if Sonia wants to add something. Sonia, do you want to add something?
Please.
Hi, Marcello. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you today. Yes, just to allocate this project within the process we have been facing. Davines is a certified B Corp since 2016. We have a high focus on decarbonization, of course, a long path toward this target. We are carbon neutral for our facilities in Italy and the offices we have worldwide. And we have a commitment net zero for 2030. And of course, this project is strictly connected with this path toward net zero and the neutralization of our emissions, as we want to work on specific scientific target, so to be in position to develop a specific indicator to measure the CO2 absorption of the soil and lands cultivated with regenerative agricultural practices. So we want to measure how much and through which specific practices regenerative agriculture helps to lessen our supply chain impact on climate change. On the other side, our commitment to biodiversity has started several years ago. We have a partnership with Slow Food. We use their ingredients and the preceding ingredients into several of our products. And so we want to be in position to develop specific indicator to measure biodiversity impact of ingredients that we grow with regenerative agriculture. So how much, through which practices we may be so more regenerative, both on biodiversity and CO2 absorption. That's, I think, a common goal that Soil Heroes has with their project, of course, so that we have from what I've seen during the presentation Gina did a few minutes ago.
Well, thank you, Sonia. Well, I mean, there's always too little time, and we have two fantastic people in the group. We could talk and we could listen to you all day, but maybe Marcelo, you can facilitate it in the next 10 minutes, a Q&A, and then we're going to break up in groups where we can go a little bit deeper. We can also connect again ally to ally and see how we can, what we learn and what we gain out of it. So Marcelo, how about facilitating the Q&A session for the next 10 minutes?
Fine, great, with pleasure. I think let's give Gina first a few minutes because she may have to leave with COP26, all these things are happening. So there's one question from Steve Kempster, I think. Could you give a little more detail of the business model between the parties and perhaps talk about the Toast Ale Brewery? Would that be something you could answer, Gina? You are on mute.
It's very easy. It's very simple. So there is a price on the impact that the farmer delivers. We set an above market price because it's high quality what the farmer is doing, and we want to ensure that it recognizes the holistic nature. For Soil Heroes ourselves, we simply take a percentage of the transaction between the company and the farmer. And actually, to your point, Sonia, we've actually just gone through a pivot. This is a little bit controversial, but we've never wanted to offset. That's not what we're doing. We're building soil and we're generating supply chains. We understand that there's a carbon market already, biodiversity is coming through. So we set out to how can we effectively sell the impact of the farmers to companies who need to be making those steps and bringing it within their businesses. So actually we have decided not to talk about offsets at all anymore. And that's also kind of, we inspired Toast, they've inspired us back. We've realized this is about regenerating supply chains, full stop. That's it. Companies, farmers, we need to do it together. And that's food and fiber and fuel. The price for biodiversity, just to be clear, there's two types, of course. There's above ground biodiversity and there's below ground biodiversity. At this moment, we simply pay the amount of square meterage covered by flower edges or biodiversity lanes. And in time, our platform, with the modeling, we will also be able to calculate the in-soil biodiversity improvement as well, but that's not yet on our platform. And there is again an average price for the farmer of what it costs to buy the seeds and sow the seeds. So we at the moment we've had payments of between 35 and 50 pence per square meter, which is high for the farmers.
Fantastic,
thank you. I have one more question, Gina, from Chris in Singapore. How can we include the consumer on this journey?
Great question. And in the end, let's face it, consumers are going to have to drive this demand as well, because companies can do so much, but if the consumers aren't, but we know the new gens, especially there's huge shift in consumers. So there are things like the regenerative organic certification, which provides, there's things like in the UK, like LEAF. I think the essential thing is for companies to be able to provide the transparency. I mean, where, you know, you've seen on that platform, you can see who the farmer is. You see a face, a name, a place, their actual practices. And I think for consumer to be able to tell stories is so much more powerful than whatever a label might be. I mean, how do you talk about soil on the back of a beer bottle? Well, actually, Toast Ale have been able to do it. And so it is about, for consumers, what is good for you. It's also about what tastes great, because we are also, and that's the most exciting part of our work, which is why I was going to share the Jill Clapperton link, is research around on the nutrient density that you build in soil, how that translates to products, and how that actually can translate directly into what tastes really fantastic. And we all know when you've tasted something that's really amazing, or when it's just been kind of empty calories. So I don't know if that directly answers your question, but we could talk a long time about it.
If I can add something here on this topic, because yes, for food it's clear. For food you have a direct correlation between safety of the soil, safety of the food, and safety of the body. When we move on cosmetics, it is a little bit different, because we need to train the people that is not food, is the concept related with the reducing of emission of CO2 during the process of creating the ingredients. That is something that we are trying to do with so we need to let the people know that the regeneration is important, not only for food, but for is a different process of producing ingredients or producing materials in general. And yeah, I think education is the key point of
it is, and how I would say there's also, you know, I think if you look to 10 years time, what's the dialogue going to be? You know, and there's a march happening tomorrow here in Glasgow of, you know, 100,000 people marching through what's effectively a small city. And if you think of the youth of today and what their demands are going to be of what a product, has this product harmed or helped the planet? Which product am I going to buy? And I think that's also relevant to the cosmetic point that you make, Paolo. So I see there's lots of other questions in the chat, Marcello. I don't know if you want me to give a one-line answer on any of them, or how
let's say, you know, maybe I have a couple of minutes left from Christopher and Yozine, but let me just pick on one, which I think is recurrent. It's coming also from Serena. I think it's also Dirk is saying something around that, which is the combination of who is triggering the interaction, the combination of financing, which also I think Paolo was asking, and I personally, in this visit I've just been making here in southern Italy, this amazing company got zero money from the public sector, just nothing. So when it comes to educating farmers, which is very important, I used to run a company in soil diagnostics. The education of farmers doing things differently is really key. And there's been a real lack of public sector to support, create the ecosystem that makes these farmers change their practices. So maybe you can say something about that, Gina.
Certainly.
And Sonia and Paolo as well, because, you know, there's so many different pieces, you know, and Serena was saying in her message, Serena's from Coils Invest, Charles Antoine Janssen came to the summit. The financing of this transition in agriculture to organic regenerative, this financing, that the time it takes and the money is a really key issue, which goes with the know-how and the behavioral changes. So can we square that circle?
Yeah, I agree, and I have a very strong point of view on this. Don't take time to figure it out, because we don't have time. And actually, there are already obvious answers that are right before us. Farmers, wherever they are on the journey, it doesn't matter if you're totally conventional or you're organic and almost fully regenerative organic, there's still more to do. And so that's the beauty of it, is that it's about encouraging farmers to be able to continue. So we actually are experiencing that there is a lot of interest from companies and a lot of interest from farmers. What's most fascinating about it and reassuring, but also complex, is that farmers are discerning. They don't just want to partner up with anybody, and they're also very nervous about, you know, what's going to happen in the future around carbon prices, for example, and which of all these other organizations that are suddenly popping up, who's going to be around. And so it's kind of it's a challenging context for farmers to figure out who should I team up with. And equally for companies, there's this sense of, but we need to make sure that the metrics are right. And do you know what? We have spoken to all of our peers in this sector, and we're very passionate about getting a common carbon code, because then we can compare apples with apples. Nevertheless, no one's doing it radically differently. So if there's a way that and that's what we do, is we capture real-time measures and real-time action, then actually you already have that proof. So don't wait for a better answer. Nature is more complex than we'll ever understand. We know enough already to be able to get started. So we are finding that farmers are coming to us and companies are coming to us. The demand is coming from both sides. Farmers want to change and companies are looking for solutions. In terms of our own approach, we are farmer-led. We are for farmers, demand-led. So where possible, we are looking for a purchaser in the first instance, so that the farmer already has that incentive. Nevertheless, we are onboarding farmers, and we have onboarded farmers, because there's already value in putting your plots and seeing, when you change different practices, what impact that has on your soil. So it's coming from both sides.
Fantastic, Gina, thanks. I give it over to Christopher and you for the group session. Anyway, this is recorded, and we will try to get all the questions to all of you, and then we go into group session. Josine, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Let's maybe take a moment to just take a very deep breath all together before I'm going to move you into the rooms. So just a very deep breath in and a deep breath out, because this was a lot and it was very beautiful. And you're going to move the momentum forward in breakout rooms together. The aim of the breakout room is to just share what are your main takeaways and how are you going to implement that in your life or in your business. So off you go. We will come all back together into the room to just close the session. Christoph, anything to add on your end?
No, it's a campfire session. Now we can see each other again, ally to ally, and, you know, make. Well, I think we'll always come to the same conclusion. We had too little time, but made some fantastic connections in the breakout session. Let me just pick on someone, because Dirk is walking in the countryside and he'll have the most unlikely way to answer. Dirk, can you share what was the big takeout of the group? If you are in the capability of doing so, if it's too much noise around you.
No, I'm. It's the wind has gone down a bit, so I'm good. I'll speak to you and let you enjoy the landscape that I'm enjoying. So what we discussed was the dilemma that I'm facing on having a holistic, integrated story, but how do you get the consumer engaged, and the necessity that you have to pick one element out of your whole story to engage a consumer, but at the same time you don't want to neglect the fact that people need to understand that holisticness. And our conclusion was, whether you like it or not, you have to engage through the most engaging part of your story and find ways to let people connect to the deeper layers. And Sonia shared the metaphor of the solar system that they are using at Davines to make that connection between a core element of the story and all the other planets in the solar system. So that was very enlightening for us.
Fantastic. So I'll pick on the Gina. You've spoken so much. We're going to make you say some more. What did you get out of your group sessions?
No, it was super. I hear again the call from not just arable lands. So that's clear that, you know, it needs to be all encompassing. We can't make everything happen all at once, but it's from our side, from modeling. And I think that actually we must not forget how new it still is for so many people and for so many sectors. So those of us who are deep in it already see solutions down the path, but actually there are sectors that are still just at the start. So I think that was also a good reminder for myself as well.
Okay, and now
thank you very much for asking.
And now the last person to give a feedback, anyone volunteer that wants to share what they did in the group, because I don't know who was not in the other group. Any volunteers before I point to someone? All right, no volunteers. So Lars, the most distant from this agriculture piece, maybe. Were you in Dirk's group or in Gina's group?
No, I was not.
Ah, picked well. Well done. Lars, what would you say?
Indeed, I'm very far from the topic. I shop my groceries in the supermarket most of the time, and business-wise, I have nothing to do with the topic. But I found it very interesting debate, and I just talked in the group about that I'm stuck by the complexity of the topic, and there were voices in our group that said, how do we scale, or ask the question, how do we scale in the trillions, because that's what it needs. How do we really accelerate this? And we kind of came to a conclusion that we really like to make it measurable, which you guys are doing, right? It needs to be measurable, so that we then can also demand, like I was also saying, there's the word of don't wait for politics, but we believe that we are in need of legislation around this, right? To demand certain thresholds of these measurable practices, right? Measurable quality of soil, measurable whatever you come up with for as KPIs, but that legislation can really demand certain thresholds to be met for any supply chain. And that's the key to accelerate. So those three thoughts we had in our group.
Well, fantastic. Thanks, Lars. I just know that Lars has made his life in making films to make this movement and everything it does more visible. So if you guys love the videos that we are making, it's him to thank. So I know there's a lot to still share. We will make sure that everything will be shared. Gina, thank you very much. Paolo, Sonia, thank you for sharing.